And then Sean Ames is flying, and he sucks, and oh, duh. So let's go to quad 3. Flip the switch, arm, woo! Ooh. Hello, drone racing world. Sean Ames here from Heart of America FPV, and I've got a dream. I've got a dream that someday a drone race heat will last longer than 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, last longer than 3 minutes. I've got a dream that when I'm racing in a race heat, and on the first lap, I completely destroy my quad into the side of a gate, and it bursts into flames, that race heat isn't necessarily over. And finally, this is a biggie, I've got a dream that someday we will all get our sorry butts off of Facebook and show up in the middle of a field somewhere and fly quads together. I don't want to sound too sentimental, but these dreams are going to come true very soon. I'm pretty pumped up about the International Open. We've got the fleet up there ready to go. We've got some of my normal racers ready. I've got a couple spec builds, a baby hawk, and even a wing. So we're going to be rocking and rolling at I.O. But we're going to be doing something pretty interesting on Thursday on the team track. Now, it's not going to be a team event. This is an individual race. We just kind of wanted to try something out and have a little bit of fun. So here's the plan. This can happen with your current fleet. You do not need any special hardware. You do not need any special software. This will work on Betaflight. This will work on Butterflight. And I'm 99.9% sure, I actually know for a fact this does work on Raceflight. I don't know how to set it up, but it will work on Raceflight. The nuances of how to set it up are a little different with the different softwares, and also the biggie is what is your control link. So if you're on FreeSky, then it's one way. If you're on Crossfire, it works another way. But essentially, imagine this. You take 3 quads out to the start blocks. You power all 3 quads on. All 3 quads setting at the ready. It's a 6-minute heat, okay? Same gear, same everything. With what I'm getting ready to show you how to do, you can take off with the first quad. You can fly until that battery depletes or until you yard sell the quad into a gate. Then you land that quad, you flip a switch, and you take off with the next quad. And in that quad, you do the same thing. You either run it until the battery's depleted or you yard sell it into a gate. When that one's done, if it's not 6 minutes yet, then you can take off with your third quad and race with it. So pretty cool concept. I think it's kind of exciting, something that could really change the future of individual drone racing. Crashing is such a drag. It happens all the time in this sport. There are a lot of things that can take you out of the air that aren't necessarily your piloting skills. Could be in midair, could be like a sudden burst of wind that pushes you into a gate and you can't control it. There's a lot of things that can end your race heat prematurely. And I think this is a neat way to extend the race heats. That's a good thing. And then secondly, it gives you extra lives. You got more than one life. So pretty pumped up about it. And we're going to do this on the team track on Thursday. Not sure what time yet. So do me a favor. If you're interested in this, A, watch on because I'm going to show you how to set it up. B, comment down below on this Facebook thread and let us know that you're interested. Also, I might even post like a Facebook event, let us know there that you're gonna go, just so we know how many pilots are interested in doing this. I'll come up with some sort of prize. At very least, I'll give you one of our sweet Heart of America FPV t-shirts, and I'll do something. I'll come up with some fun prize for us. It won't be anything groundbreaking, but the big thing is I just need your help to see if this will work as a race format. More than likely, we'll do a couple of rounds of practice/qualifying, and then we'll jump into like a double elimination bracket. It'll be like a 2-3 hour event. Pretty simple, just seeing if it works. I guess if there's a ton of people that want to do this, and it might be longer. If you're interested in this, let's jump into Betaflight. I'm sure this will work exactly the same on Butterflight. Let's jump in there and I'll show you how to set it up with your current quads, with your current fleet, no additional hardware. Let's do it. All right, guys, so here we are in Betaflight, and before we jump into what it takes to set up Betaflight, I want to talk through a few things. So to compete in this format, there are a few things that your fleet must do. The first thing you must be able to do is you must have the ability to control each quad independently. Obviously, if you have a crashed quad and then you go to take off with the next quad, you don't want to be flying 2 quads at once. Obviously, that's a massive safety issue, like hazard issue. That's a big deal. The second thing you must have the ability to do is
either turn your VTX off or move your VTX to a graveyard channel. So in team racing, in most of these formats, what's really worked well, and it's been very surprising to me, I was very skeptical that it would work, but it works very, very well, and that is assigning a graveyard channel. So if we're at IO and we're using race band 1, we might have 4 pilots up at a time. Let's say we're utilizing race band 2, 4, 6, and 8. Then we might assign the odd race band channels as the graveyard channels. So that's something that typically gets done at the event. I'll show you how to set that. But essentially you use smart audio to change the channel of your quad to a graveyard channel. I'll show you in Betaflight. You don't have to necessarily do that on the fly with the OSD or Lua or anything like that. You'll be doing that with mode switching. The way all of this works is a little bit different depending on what your control protocol is. So on FreeSky, for instance, the more feature heavy receivers, right? They have model selection. So when you're binding up a model, you know how you can select, you want to bind it to, channel 1, channel 2. I don't know if it's channel is the right word or not, but there's different numbers and you can have different quads assigned and bound to different numbers, or you can bind them all to one number. Some people have done that. That will not work if you're trying to do this in this way, but you can bind it to multiple channels, and then you set up multiple models on your Tyrannus that you would switch to control the different quads. So that's the way that FreeSky would work. Crossfire made a lot of people scratch their head. I remember at XDC trying to figure that out, because if telemetry is turned on Crossfire and you have 2 quads that are bound to the same transmitter turned on, then it gets really wonky in regard to which one you're actually controlling. So to get this to work on Crossfire, you actually have to disable telemetry in the receiver, and you do this either with the screen, little tiny screen on the full size Crossfire, or you can do it with Lua scripts with the smaller Crossfire unit. So there might be other ways to turn off telemetry. Maybe ask Trappy, I'm not exactly certain. But one thing to keep in mind with telemetry off, now your transmitter is communicating with every single bound receiver that's powered up. So technically, if you've got 3 quads powered on, all bound to the same Crossfire transmitter, then you're technically controlling all 3 quads. So it's important, and that's what we'll get into here with mode switching, that you're only controlling 1 quad at a time. Futaba, I know one of our team pilots is a Futaba pilot. He was able to use Raceflight and Futaba to do these kinds of things. I'm not exactly sure how, but I do think there's a way to get it to work. I think it works similar to Crossfire. Spectrum, I really have no idea. You'll have to get information there. But the good news is it's obvious that FreeSky and Crossfire are the most common control protocols that we see at any race. So hopefully this will cover most of you guys. Let's get down here to the modes tab. I guess before we dive into this too far, I'll let you know that I've got my Tyrannus here. I've got my receiver powered on. I've got aux1 set to ARM. Now aux2 I'm not currently using anywhere.
Flight mode 3, flight mode 1.
But you can hear my Tyrannus talking. So I have this actually set. I have her set to tell me, she's saying flight mode, but what she's actually telling me is which quad. So I have quad 2
flight mode 2
and quad 3.
flight mode 3.
So this
flight
is
mode 1.
So that is one of the 3 position switches on my Tyrannus. I have mapped that to aux number 2. Aux number 3 is my turtle mode switch. So you can see there, turtle mode. And then aux number 4, you don't see, I have that on another switch mapped to aux number 4. And I use that for my VTX pit mode. So here's where it gets unbelievably tricky, and I'm going to do my best to explain this. And I'm sorry if I fail. And if I fail, then this race won't happen and I'll be racing against myself or something silly. But I promise this works. Please try to follow. And if you think you can explain this better, have at it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a pre-arm switch. And I'm going to set this to my aux2. Click save so it's working. And now you can see as I flip that switch, it's active, it's working.
Flight mode 3.
It's working very loudly. What I want to do is, let's say this is quad number 1. So I want the first position to be the pre-arm for this quad. So ta-da, it's set. If I'm in position 2 or position 3,
flight mode 2.
The pre-arm is not activated. Let me click save so it's correct.
Flight mode 3.
You see that?
Flight mode 2.
Flight mode 2 or flight mode 3, that pre-arm is not activated, but flight mode 1 pre-arm is activated. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to set up our VTX pit mode switch. And so I have that, like I said, mapped to aux4. This is going to be the inverse of the pre-arm. I want it to be in the VTX pit mode unless I flip the switch, if that makes sense. So I want to put that there. If my VTX pit mode switch is in the off position, it's off. But if I turn it on, it turns it on. Now, here's the issue. Remember, I run Crossfire, and if I've got 3 quads powered on, then my transmitter is talking to all 3 quads at the same time. I could have my pre-arm selected, but if I arm my VTX, technically right now it's gonna, if this is all I did on the quad, if this is the only thing I did to set it up, then right now I would be taking every quad out of pit mode, and that would be bad. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that the quad that I want to fly is the only one that comes out of pit mode. And to do this, we're going to click add range. We're going to connect this with our pre-arm switch. Since we're working on quad number 1 right now, we're going to make sure that if our pre-arm switch is in any other position other than number 1, we're going to make sure that it turns off. It's in pit mode. So if I'm in flight mode 2, or if I select quad 2, then I'm in pit mode. Even though my pit mode switch aux4 is on, since I'm selected quad number 2, then the VTX on quad number 1 is now in pit mode. Gosh, I know this is confusing. But for quad number 1, this is all that I have to do to set it up. The other thing, if I put my VTX switch off, I want to make sure that all VTXs are off regardless of my pre-arm switch. And this is primarily because of team racing. I want to make sure that when I plug my quad in, waiting for the next guy, I want to make sure that it is in VTX pit mode. That's the way that works. The other thing you need to make sure is you need to make sure that fail safes are all set up to be in VTX pit mode. If you lose connection to quad, you want to make sure that it turns off. I guess if you wanted to, you could technically do all of this with just one switch. You could have, you just want to have the inverse. So let's see how we might set that up. If you wanted to do it with one switch, you're just using aux2.
Flight mode 2.
And if you're pre-armed, then you're good to go. That would work as well.
Flight mode 2.
And be a little less complicated. So
Flight mode 1.
for team racing, your quad gets plugged in while another pilot is in the air. So it's important that you've got an independent control of the VTX beyond just the pre-arm. For team racing, you definitely want to do it the original way I showed you, with having a separate switch for your VTX pit mode. For individual racing, this would work fine, where you just have your pre-arm on the inverse of your pit mode. Look at that. So I'm gonna leave it like this, and I want to test it here later. I'll go outside and actually try flying this and make sure it works. But we're gonna leave that. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to set up your pit mode frequency. So what channel does your quad go to when it's in pit mode? To do that, we're gonna go into the CLI, and I'm gonna type get VTX. Now I love this function in Betaflight or Butterflight because you can set VTX channel without actually powering it on. So that's super handy at races, and I use this all of the freaking time. Right now, this quad is on F2. Our VTX pit mode frequency is set to 0, so that means it's off. It's not engaged, it's not doing anything. So what we need to do, I'm gonna copy this just because I'm lazy, and I'm gonna type set, and I'm gonna paste it, VTX underscore pit underscore mode underscore frequency equals, and instead of 0, we want to put in whatever the pit mode frequency is. So I'm going to pretend it's race band 1, which would be 5658. Hit enter, type save, and now it should work. I don't know if it will, but it should. I'm going to move this quad really quick. Give me a second. So we've got quad number 2 now hooked up. Let's do the same thing here. I already have the telemetry turned off on all of these receivers, so I don't have to worry about that. But essentially just going into the modes tab, and we need to set up a pre-arm and a VTX thing. And I'm going to test this. If it doesn't work, you won't see it. But now this one's pretty tricky. I'm going to actually have to add a range, even though we're just using the one switch, and split it like that. aux2.
Flight mode 2.
If I'm on aux2, then pit mode is off and pre-arm is on.
Flight mode 1.
See how that
Flight
works?
mode 2.
Also, one super important thing about the pre-arm is the way it works is you have to engage it,
Flight mode 2.
and within so many seconds you have to arm. It's not arming the quad, it is just pre-arming it. If your pre-arm switch has been in that position for a while, you have to turn it off and then back on, essentially. That's the way that works. I'm gonna click save. We'll go into the VTX CLI commands again, get VTX, and this one likewise, I just wanna make sure it is on the same channel. It's on F2. Looking good, looking good. And we need to set VTX pit mode frequency to 5658. Hit save. All right, that quad number 2 should be now officially set up. And quad number 3.
Telemetry lost. Telemetry recovered.
All right, here is quad number 3. So same type of situation, really fast. Go into our modes tab. We need a pre-arm, we need a VTX pit mode. And this one, pre-arm is gonna be position 3 and pit mode is gonna be everything but position 3. So click save, easy peasy. Go into the CLI, get VTX. Make sure this one is also on F2 and we need to set VTX pit mode frequency to 5658 and hit enter, type save, bam. Easy freaking peasy. So guys, that's the way you set it up. So now theoretically I should be able to control each one of these quads with just the pre-arm switch. So that is pretty much it. Let me get some batteries on these quads. We'll go outside and I'll just do a little demo of how it might work. We'll go from there.
All right, guys, I'm not sure if you can hear me super well, but I've got my 3 quads powered up on the railing there. One thing that I got reminded of when I came out here and set up is that different VTXs take longer to switch channels. So this first quad has the Lumineer MMCX VTX in it from GetFPV. I'm gonna flip the switch to quad 2 right now. And so now we got the interference from quad 2, but quad 1 hasn't shut off yet. It takes almost 15 seconds to change channels. So that's something to keep in mind. Now quad 2 has a Unify in it and quad 3 has a Tramp in it. So I literally have kind of the spectrum right now. So, uh-oh, they're beeping at me. So quad, I'll arm that one. So quad 2, if I switch to quad 3, watch how fast it goes. So it's off, there's quad 3. I'll arm that one, go back to 1, arm that one, but now watch, so quad 3 is off, but now we're waiting on quad 1 to get its channel back. So it's gonna take a good while there. So when we run this race, I won't be using this VTX. Anyway, so let's do a little simulation here of what this might look like. So you got all 3 quads on the starting block, just like so. Probably front to back versus left to right, but here we go. I will take off here. So you're racing, kicking butt, taking names. Hello. Bald guy on the deck. Yeah, we won't do any dives. And then let's bring this quad in for the pit. These pits are pretty cool at my house. All right, so that's in. So now we're gonna switch to quad 2 because that one is spent. So now we gotta wait this 15 seconds. Like I said, don't use this VTX when we do this. So here we go. Now we're on to quad 2, armed. So now we're up. Different quad in the air. Oh, I love 6S. Good times here. Hello. All right. And then Sean Ames is flying, and he sucks, and oh, duh. So let's go to quad 3. Flip the switch, arm, woo! Ooh. This is one of my spec builds I just took off with in it's 4S, which 4S is junk. But I don't think my rates are in this. It feels really twitchy. Woohoo! So that's it. So there you would finish out the race with your 3rd quad. Obviously you don't want to wreck this one. Yeah, this quad feels so weird. I gotta check the rates for sure. So, all right, let's bring. Well, I better not bring this one in for the pit because, well, there's a quad up there. I'll just land it on top of it. What do you say? But I gotta go downstairs anyway because of the one there. All right, that's it.